Aloha, and welcome to all of our caregivers who are joining in today via Zoom, and to those who will be watching this videotape on the Caregiver Foundation YouTube channel. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Roger Higa, in developing plans for long-term care events. And I met Roger about a month or so ago at a resource fair, and he had a table and was meeting individually with caregivers. And he also did a little introduction of his services. And so I asked him to speak about one of his programs in preventing family disputes. So I'll turn the mic over to Roger and ask you to give more of your personal and professional background. So welcome.
All right. Thanks, Leanne. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all of you for taking the time to join us. I was asked to do a 20-minute presentation. I'll do my best to stay within that time and open it up for question and answers after. A little bit about myself. I been working in the insurance and financial services industry for about 13 years. And um, I think what led to um, the creation of my company had a lot to do with what happened in my life. So, about 2.5 years ago, I unexpectedly became a caregiver for my older brother who was born with cerebral palsy. My mother and my father could no longer take care of him, and it came completely unexpected. I didn't know what to do. I was just navigating and figuring out how was I going to be able to care for my brother, and I was also caring, and I'm still caring for my mother-in-law who has early stage dementia. So it was quite overwhelming, and I think it led to me asking a lot of questions, working in the industry and talking to other people in the community, and then realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one going through this process, and so it kind of went hand in hand with a lot of the services that we provide. I began to understand a lot of the challenges that people are going through. One of the big things that are really that is coming up is family disputes. Whenever there's a long-term care event, uh, and siblings or other family members don't get along or can't communicate, it just makes their situation a lot more challenging. And so um, we ended up creating a company called Hawaii Long-Term Care Solutions to address some of the issues that we see are happening in many households, which is very unfortunate. Um, I do want to mention that our presentation is strictly educational and informational. We say it's not solicitational and transactional. Um, yeah, we're just here to provide information so that people can make informed decisions on what would work best for their situation, because we understand that everybody's situation is different. So what might work for one person may not work for another. So um, yeah, and just to share a little bit more about myself, yeah, we ended up creating this company. It was so much in line with our passion and our mission, which is really to help people alleviate their stresses. We know that money is the number one cause of stress in people's lives. And we wanted to do what we could to help alleviate what we go through, all of us go through every day, right? And um, so going through the process, we realized how many people are in need of services, information. We get calls literally every day from people that we've never met before who are seeking advice, information, guidance. People even tell me they have a long-term care plan, insurance plan, but they don't even know how it works. They don't know how to qualify to receive benefits. They don't know how to file a claim. It's a common thing that's coming up. And so we realize how underserved the population is. And, obviously we can't stop aging. Most people, like even myself, I mean, I never did a good job planning and preparing for my future. And that's pretty much what led to some of the challenges that I've had to deal with becoming a caregiver. And of course, the increasing cost of care. It's uh, it's really overwhelming for a lot of people. The average cost of long-term care services in Hawaii runs anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 a month. It may be more, it may be less. I've heard people are paying over 20,000 a month for long-term care services. And so it's only going to get worse as we move forward. So family disputes, why are we seeing more occurrences with family disputes? One is lack of clear planning. Family members have different assumptions about what care should look like for mom and dad before, during a long-term care event happens. There's financial conflicts, and that's a result of disagreements on how care should be paid for. Unequal burden, what I mean by that is one family member may bear more responsibility than the other because of their situation and emotional stress, right? Long-term care brings out unresolved family tensions, and it really makes things very difficult for a family to come to agreement on what's really best for mom and dad. Where does mom and dad want their care provided? Who's going to pay for it, and who's going to provide that care? That those are questions hopefully can be answered before a long-term care event happens. And I do want to emphasize that a long-term care event doesn't happen to older people. It can happen to anyone. You could get into an auto accident, and that could be uh, a long-term care event. You could get injured at work, or, many people know about what happened on New Year's Eve with that fireworks incident. Um, Several people got seriously injured, and they won't be able to take care of themselves for a very long time. And so they will also be in need of long-term care services. So it has nothing to do with age. Um, Over 40% of people under the age of 65 are currently in need of long-term care services. Um, and I wanted to share with you, there's many, many situations that I'm having to deal with various clients that I'm currently working with. One that I will share with you, not mentioning any names or anything, but someone that I've known for a very long time, went to school together. I think I've known this person for over 50 years. I'm really aging myself. Um, a couple of years ago, they got into it with another family member. Unfortunately, um, one of their parents didn't have a long-term care plan in place, and it was never communicated to their children what they wanted their care to look like. And so it led to a crisis where my client got into a huge fight with their other sibling, because their sibling that doesn't live here had an idea of how their parents should be cared for, but they didn't want to provide the care. They were living on the mainland. They had no plans of coming back to Hawaii, but yet they wanted to control how their parent should be cared for. And my client was trying to do the best that she could to care for their parent. And it ultimately led to litigation. Um, they went to court. It was a pretty big legal battle. It ended up going on for about a year. And a lot of the legal expenses were paid out of their parents' estate, which is really unfortunate. But what's even worse is these two siblings, they're never going to speak together again. And so there's a lot of other things that come up when people don't plan for a long-term care event. And this is just one prime example. I've heard of other situations very similar to this. And so our company and our job is to help alleviate some of these things that happen. If you guys don't know, you know, if you hire an attorney, you could pay anywhere between 350 and $500 an hour for an attorney. So you can imagine how expensive it could be. And normally, when you retain an attorney, they normally ask you to put down a deposit of like 10,000. So um, it just adds to the stress and the frustration that goes on when a long-term care event happens that people don't plan for. I don't have a whole lot of slides, but these are some of the steps that we recommend that we work with our clients to help alleviate these family disputes. Obviously, one is um, having open discussions early with family members, and for some, it may be easier said than done, right? But it's something that we encourage people to have before a long-term care event happens. And, you may have differences with other family members, but, if the conversation is focused on your loved one, it kind of helps alleviate some of the tensions. And so really asking questions, if mom or dad is able to make decisions for themselves, I just speak from my experience. I just ask, what do you want it to look like? How would you want to pay for it? And who do you want to who do you want to provide that care for you, right? And just to get some clarity and really to make sure that you fulfill their wishes instead of figuring out what they think they wanted. And so preparing early is pretty critical. Making sure that you have legal and documentation prepared. Some people don't have a power of attorney. That's something that we highly recommend you do. It's not a service that we provide. We do provide referrals, but that will definitely help in making financial and healthcare decisions. So obviously, you can't sell your family's home if you don't own the home, or you're not able to access their bank accounts to get money to pay for care if your name is not on it. So really, if you don't have things set up, the only option would be to go through the court system to get legal guardianship or conservatorship, and that could be very costly and lengthy. So we do encourage um, individuals to have that in place. Creating advanced healthcare directives, good to have a living trust, wills in place, and appointing a decision maker and communicating what everyone's role is going to be. So that's really some of the things that should be discussed in conversation. Financial planning and transparency, setting up a dedicated account, bank account, or utilizing insurance policies to take care of long-term care expenses. We do recommend that if you have a bank account that's going to be utilized to pay for care, we actually recommend that there's three people on the account. Obviously, the owner plus maybe two family members or that the family member trusts that would um, fulfill their wishes, and it's just to keep the other two honest, right? If you just have one person on the account, it's hard to just checks and balances. It's pretty difficult, and avoiding financial surprises and making sure that all family members understand um, what funding sources are going to be utilized to pay for care, right? Um, Having a long-term care insurance policy, it does help reduce the financial strain, but it may not be um, the optimal solution. It really depends on the situation, but it can help alleviate a lot of the complexities when a long-term care event happens. Um, but then also know and understand, how does the policy work? How does my family member qualify to receive benefits? How do I file a claim? Right? A lot of people that I spoken to, they have no idea how to file a claim. And I explained to them that if you don't file a claim, or if you file a claim but it's not in good order or it's not approved because there's information that's missing, you are going to continue paying that long-term care premium until that claim is approved. So it's important that you expedite the claims process, and if you need help, work with a professional that can help guide you to that process. I've had situations where people have told me they took 9 months to over a year to get a claim approved. It was pretty daunting. Um, Mediation, family agreements. Um, I would say, like, if you get to a point where the conversation's not going anywhere or not moving forward, it would be a good idea to bring third party in, maybe someone who's neutral that people could work with to kind of guide the or facilitate the conversation moving forward. And it could be a professional long-term care planning specialist, financial advisor, CPA, attorney, someone that people would be open to uh, resolving maybe some of the tension that typically happens in a family conversation, and then also making sure again that you have documented agreements. Good to have things down on paper. Um, People don't always remember verbally what people agreed to, and so it's always good to have these discussions documented because it's very emotional. Yeah. Whenever there's a long-term care event, it's obviously creates a crisis for family members. So who may have different opinions about care decisions, finances, responsibilities. Without clear documentation, that's when disputes arise and, um, ultimately, lead to legal battles that I described earlier in my presentation. Um, I am looking at the clock. That was actually my last slide. For those who are um, needing more guidance, that's something that, we can assist with, or just have questions or need clarification. I know Leanne will provide uh, my contact information, but we're really here to help. It's just such a tough time, I think, for everybody across the board. but we do encourage people to again start thinking about, what do you want? Even for yourself, what do you want for yourself, right? And um, I'm sure people don't want to be a burden for other family members, and it really starts with thinking about what's important to you, and having control over um, your decisions about what's important to you. What do you want it to look like? Um, Instead of having somebody else figure it out, um, and try and interpret what it is that you wanted. It's pretty tough. Speaking from experience, but that is um, pretty much what I wanted to cover. I know we only had 20 minutes. I wanted to again be respectful of people's time, but if you folks have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Roger. If we were all face to face in the room, there would be, applause, and we'd open up for Q&A. So I will put your contact information into the chat, and I've invited our caregivers to also put questions into the chat. I don't have any thus far, but I have a few from your presentation, and caregivers, please um, pipe in in the chat features. So a couple of my questions have to do with when. So you talked about talking about long-term care early, but then sometimes there's a precipitating event. Mom has a fall and has to go into hospital and rehab, and then it continues on. So when is it appropriate? I mean, can you have these discussions after the event has happened and you're already into the long-term care?
Yeah, after the event happens, that makes the situation so complicated. But in the event that an event happens, obviously they wouldn't be able to qualify to get a plan in place. But what we do is we ask, what do you have in place? And see how we can utilize those plans that they have implemented to work for them. And again, most people don't understand how their plan works and how they can uh, reap the benefits that they've been paying for years.
Mhm.
And so we dissect the plans for them and guide them through the process and making sure that they are going to get a benefit from their plan. And yeah, so it really depends on what they have. And um,
Yeah, and I guess any time is a good time to start these conversations, but
mm,
once the care is needed, then it may be a little bit more
yeah,
difficult or complicated.
yeah. I mean, the best time is, well, you know how they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? It was yesterday. And the next best time is today. People need to start thinking about what they um what they want their long-term care plan to look like, because we don't know. We can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow. I could get injured at work. I could get hit by a car. And why wait? And but people have a tendency to put things off,
Yeah, true.
right? So
Yeah. There's a question, does Hawaii have any professional mediators?
professional mediators, I believe they do. I don't know of any off the top of my head. I know I've seen a company that came to our resource fairs the last couple of months, but there are mediators out there that could step in and guide a family to uh, a discussion without killing each other. But at
Yeah.
least facilitate the talks. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is, right? Facilitating
Mhm,
discussions. Gary
mhm.
has returned, and
Okay.
he put into the chat the Mediation Center of the Pacific has a
Yep.
program. It's called Kupuna Pono, and in fact, they were a guest speaker and a past Caregiver
Mm,
Foundation support group. So there's
mhm.
information in the chat about that. Another question is, how do single people with no immediate family plan for long-term care? It's a good question.
Yeah, so it goes, it starts with having that conversation about what do you want your care plan to look like? Who do you want to care for you? Yeah, I don't have family members, but we help them explore options where maybe it's a facility that would provide that care depending on what they have, their assets, their income, right? And so we can walk them through that process. And we do work with other uh, companies that provide those types of services. So, yeah. And some people ask me, oh, Roger, I don't even have family members, so I don't even know who would be my power of attorney. And Um, I can provide that information, I guess, offline, but I actually worked with a legal firm that provided a backup power of attorney for my brother because, if I get hit by a car, well, who's going to care for my brother? And so we did set up a backup plan for my brother because I'm the only person that is able to care for him right now.
Mhm.
So he might outlive me. And so I was able to get a referral from another estate planning attorney. We got things in place and made sure that I always say you always have to have a plan B, always, because plan B doesn't always work.
Yeah, that's good advice, having multiple backup plans. We do have a comment in the chat, the Maui Mediation Services, um,
Hmm,
uh,
awesome.
address and phone number. So
Mhm,
that's valuable. So there are
mhm,
some services out there, as well as like what you said about different professionals and different, maybe it could be finance or law,
mhm,
that have input
mhm,
into the
mhm.
long-term care plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Leanne, I do want to emphasize, I've heard many people say, yeah, Raj, a lot of people, they just don't want to ask for help or they're afraid to ask questions. And I just share with them my own personal experience that I don't know everything. I just ask for help. I ask people who know people who might be able to provide help. And that's how I've been able to navigate through my own personal long-term care giving experiences. We have to humble ourselves and say we don't know, and I need help, right? We have to ask for help, and it really starts with us, right?
that's really good advice to ask for help and to reach out to family and friends,
Exactly,
because everybody
exactly.
has gone through the situation or is going through it.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gary has a comment. The Caregiver Foundation has a program called Standby Services, which kind of serves the same purpose that covers financial planning and um, other needs. So Roger, in closing, is there anything that you'd like to say to our caregivers, um, who are
Yeah,
have
I
loved one as well as for themselves? Yeah.
yeah. I want them to know that obviously they're not alone. There are resources and support groups out there. We want to help you, right? There's more resources than you realize, and I just speak from experience. I couldn't have done it without the people that I was able to support me and helping provide the best care for my two family members, and it's definitely kept my sanity. I didn't end up at Kaneohe Hospital, and yeah, I think it's just, ask. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. It's free, you know. and the information you'll receive is free most times. So yeah, but if they ever need any additional help or support, I want to be an advocate along with the Caregiver Foundation to support them.
All right. I want to thank Roger for being our guest speaker today. I put Roger's phone number and website into the chat. I'll put your email address in momentarily. So thank you, Roger, for speaking to our.
All right, thank you. You guys have a wonderful week. Take care
Oh,
now.
okay.
Bye
Um,
bye.